You're listening to Miss Style, Strength, and Grace with Deidra Murphy. This is your one-stop shop for style, fashion, health, and fitness. Deidra's passion is to help empower women to reach their fullest potential, both inside and out. Deidra and her guests will be discussing how to develop your style, health, and lifestyle hacks to energize your day and inspire you to keep reaching higher levels of success. Deidra is a professional fashion stylist, health guru, and Mrs. Washington 2017. It's time to get open and honest with Deidra.
Well, hello and welcome to another episode. Today we're talking about something you can probably hear in my voice. I still sound a little bit nasally. So if you follow me on social media via Instagram or Facebook, you probably noticed that I was taking kind of a little hiatus the last few days as I got really sick. And it's so funny because I always tout like I never get sick. And it's crazy for me because I used to be the person that always got sick. I know I've shared a little bit about this in some of my previous episodes, but always growing up, I always got a cold. Anytime somebody around me had something, I was bound to get it, and it would knock me out for the count, like taking a week off, whether it be from school when I was little or from work when I was an adult. And then when I started to actually implement holistic health and life changes, it took a few years, but I finally started realizing I don't get sick anymore. Even last spring, I went and visited my brother and his fiance down in California, and she had a form of walking pneumonia, and old Deidra would have instantly gotten it. Like, I wouldn't have been able to get out of getting her cold or her sickness, but I didn't get it. And it just really speaks to the fact that taking a holistic approach to your wellness really in the long term ends up boosting your immune system. And I'm not just saying like, oh, this is a end all be all, like I never get sick and then here I am sick. But in the long run, it really does help boost your immune system. And I can be around people that have colds and flus now, and I generally don't get it. But in the end, I'm still human, and every once in a while I do get sick. I think it was something that was already kind of coming on, and then I went away for the weekend, and I had a long weekend of conferences and an expo, and there was lack of sleep, plus I was shaking hands with who knows how many people, and I think it just really was telling my body, like, you need to slow down, because although it was great to attend this amazing conference on 2 days, and I was just going from about 6 a.m. nonstop to about 8 or 9 p.m. or even later one of the nights, and then it was daylight savings, so then I lost an hour of sleep, and it was just bound to happen. So today I thought I would share some of my secrets for naturally fighting off a cold, because even though I did get sick, it didn't just completely knock me off my feet. I was still able to kind of limp around almost like a tripod and get some stuff done still. My head didn't feel like I was completely in the game, but I wasn't just bedridden for days at a time like my old self would have been. And, I just wanted to share my protocol for beating a head cold a little bit more naturally. I know a lot of us, when we feel something coming on, our first instinct is to grab the Dayquil or the NyQuil or the Sudafed, and we're going to talk a little bit about why that's not the best route for your body, but I like to just promote holistic health and wellness, and I myself reach for the natural protocols. It does help with some of the symptoms, but in the long run, it helps keep my body healthier so that I can continue to do the things that I need to do during the day, but also boost my immune system for years to come. So what is the difference between who I was, say, 5-6 years ago, always getting sick, and who I am now, who I only get maybe a cold or flu once in a blue moon? Like the last time I think I had some sort of minor head cold was over a year. If you've ever had the opportunity to come into our chiropractic clinic, you will immediately know what I'm talking about, but it's the 5 foundations that we believe are key to a holistic approach to health and wellness. So the first one is what we call function, the nervous system. As obviously a chiropractor, that is my husband's foundation for his practice. And I'm not a chiropractor, but I know that all healing stems from our nervous system. The next one is food. What are we putting into our body? Are we putting in the right nutrients? Are we able to really take in whole foods, not only just whole foods, but the right kinds of foods? There can be things that are, say, organic, but it's still junk food. If you're eating organic potato chips, at the end of the day, they're still potato chips, even if they're organic, but focusing on the right nutrient dense types of foods. The next one is fitness. So the right kind of movement and right types of exercise to increase oxygen burst style training into your exercise and why that's so good for you. So be sure to check that podcast out. I'll put that in today's show notes with a link to that so you can listen to that podcast as well. The next one we call filter. So we talk about filtering out and limiting our toxins. And that's really what we're going to talk about today, limiting toxins that we put into our body, that are so-called healthy, but not really in the long run. But also when we teach filtering out toxins to our patients, it's also about, what type of products are we putting on our body? What type of products are we using to clean our homes? And what are we inundating our systems with when it comes to toxicity? We already get bombarded with toxins and chemicals and free radicals in our world today. So why not try to limit that as much as possible? And the last one we refer to is called freedom. And that's really more about your head. So state of mind, freedom in life, freedom in finances, in your family, whatever it is, it's more about that mental state of freedom. So over the last probably 5 or 6 years now, I've been implementing this holistic approach to my wellness and making sure that I get adjusted, obviously by my husband, and focus on the other elements. And I don't get sick, really, as I say this with a head cold. But yes, I'm still human, but even these little head colds don't knock me out anymore. And I'm eager to share the ways that I battle a cold so that I can get over it quicker. So let's lay the groundwork. Why is it important to stay natural in our approach to fighting colds? In the long run, it will strengthen the immune system. Naturally letting the body heal is the best way to keep it healthier in years to come. But why? There's side effects of cold, medications that range from the possibility of liver damage, to an overdose of acetaminophen that's actually now the cause of liver failure. The leading cause of liver failure is too much acetaminophen, which that is found in our common painkillers, Advils, Tylenols. I can't remember which one it is that has it. One is a acetaminophen, but I believe it's an Advil. But not only does this cause a rise in blood pressure, but it can even lead to jitteriness from, say, decongestants to drowsiness, or the opposite can happen, restlessness and dizziness from even things like antihistamines that help suppress our sneezing. Cold medicines, especially over-the-counter kinds, Dayquil, NyQuil, what have you, they just mask the symptoms and suppress the body's symptoms. Cough suppressant, right? We've heard that. The problem is this will lower the body's ability to get rid of the germs in its own natural way. A sneeze or a cough is literally the body trying to get rid of the germs in the first place. So taking something to decrease or suppress these symptoms will just lead to a longer cold because your body is not able to get rid of those toxins. It's just trapped inside. Colds especially are a virus, not a bacteria. So taking medications like antibiotics for something that isn't designed to treat just contributes to more antibiotic resistance, not only for your body, but creating superbugs in our society as a whole. I understand what it's like to not be able to breathe or have a clogged nose, but don't reach for the decongestant. Before you reach for that decongestant to clear your blocked nasal passages, consider this. All decongestants increase blood pressure. Something to think about. I know those are some of the negative side effects that comes from all the medicines that we can take for our colds and flus. And I know it's hard to suffer, but my best recommendation is to try and tough it out. And there are natural ways to help cope that aren't going to set you back farther or increase the length of your cold or flu. So number one, this is the first protocol that I go to, is get adjusted. See your local chiropractor, and if you especially aren't lucky enough to live with one like I am. But why? Chiropractic adjustments boost immune system function not only in the long term. For instance, a recent study found that patients under regular long-term chiropractic care had a 200% greater immune competence than with those that have no chiropractic care. So obviously that's long-term over, a couple years of regular chiropractic adjustments. But in the short term, chiropractic adjustments help naturally lower cortisol levels. Cortisol in particular is a stress hormone that inhibits the immune system, which is literally why stress can make you sick. So the sympathetic nervous system is turned on due to stress and then subluxation, which is a misalignment in the spine. So it can increase the adrenal gland's synthesis of cortisol, in turn affecting the immune system. So call your chiropractor, get adjusted. If you can physically make it in the office, I'm sure your doctor will be happy to adjust you and they're not going to worry about the germs. Granted, go in, make sure you wash your hands, try to stay as clean as possible, but get adjusted. Number 2, this one probably is going to upset some of you, but it really helps decrease the sugar, cut the sugar out. Sugar weakens immune systems, all forms of sugar, even if it's from fruit or even that apple or that glass of OJ. The glass of orange juice can have as much as 30 grams of sugar, which we've talked about in a previous podcast, and that's more than the recommended daily allotment. Why avoid the sugar? It feeds the colds and sicknesses. All diseased cells, whether it's a virus cell or even cancer, feed on sugar. It's what fuels its growth, its growing rate, and, makes them, like I said, grow faster, stronger, and at a rapid pace. So starve the cold or flu and stick with low sugar foods in their rawest and whole food form. Veggies, good proteins like chicken, fish, grass-fed beef, good fats. Stay away from the sugary coffees, even the sugary teas, and especially the fruits. So like last week, I cut out my apples from my regular eating habits just to help cut down my sugar intake. I was eating whole foods as much as possible. Granted, obviously still sticking with good old homemade chicken soup, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. So cut down on the sugar. Number 3, essential oils. Many essential oils have antimicrobial properties. Be careful because some are hot oils that you don't want to touch or ingest. But my favorite is OnGuard by Doterra brand. It's a natural antimicrobial blend, and it's great to diffuse all day long if you have a diffuser. But maybe if you're on the go, keep a little bottle of it with you and take 3 to 4 drops just by your mouth 4 or so times daily. You literally cannot overdose on it. I promise you it's not going to be pleasant. It tastes disgusting, at least in my opinion, but it will help kill those nasty germs living in the throat. I even recommend holding it under your tongue for about 30 seconds, then swallow. I promise it'll help a lot. Number 4, my cure-all, well, maybe it's not a cure-all, but it does help, is my apple cider vinegar tonic. So you take a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar or lemon juice and you add it to a glass of water, and it helps to alkalize the body. So creating an alkaline environment instead of acidic helps clear and kill bacteria and viruses. Now, I have to admit this stuff is really potent and really nasty, but it is also a great natural expectorant and will help you break up all the nasty gunk that's living in your chest, and so you can start coughing and getting it out. Another little tonic that I have with apple cider vinegar is to get an 8-ounce glass of water, add about 1/4 cup of pure apple cider vinegar. My favorite brand is Mrs. Bragg. You can find that at most natural food stores. You can even find it on Amazon. And then top it off, add 8 to 10 drops of pure grapeseed extract. I found this online and in most health food sections of stores. So you want to drink this slowly and sip it throughout the day. Don't just down it all at once. Try to do 2 to 3 glasses of this tonic slowly And if you can't handle this, try just a shot of 1 to 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. It's a natural, great, like I said, alkaline creating juice or whatever it is, product. There we go. Number 5, speaking of taking all that tonic and the apple cider vinegar, stay hydrated. I normally drink about 1 gallon of water every day. But even then I lose my thirst when I'm sick. I'm not feeling great if I'm not drinking water. I have to constantly remind myself to drink fluids when I'm sick, as it helps the body flush out toxins. So what I have to do is I fill my giant 40-ounce water bottle and I make a goal to drink that whole thing, if not twice, fill it up twice throughout the day. And I would recommend at least a 32-ounce bottle and try to drink a minimum of 1 to 2 of these, maybe 1 in the morning and 1 in the afternoon, just to remind yourself to stay hydrated. And then 2, you realize how much water you're actually drinking. Stay away from all the caffeinated drinks. These are just going to help dehydrate you, and instead opt for maybe herbal teas that help naturally soothe, say, a sore throat, a cough, calm the body. My favorite are peppermint teas or chamomile, especially in the evening, and cinnamon teas. Plus, cinnamon itself is a great immune booster as well. If you can, sprinkle maybe even some fresh ground ginger. I know it might be hard to find some fresh ground ginger or to get a fresh piece of ginger and grind it, but if powdered is all you have, go ahead and use that too. Put it in your tea and it'll help kickstart your immune system. So speaking of hydration, there's something to be said about mama's homemade chicken and chicken soup and how that can naturally help heal your body. So naturally homemade soup doesn't have to be hard. Just a couple months ago, my husband was actually sick and I just grabbed out a couple boxes of natural chicken broth and I added some canned chicken. That was all I had on hand that was ready to go. And I put it on the stove and I added in any and all veggies that I had in the fridge and, add spices to taste. I love rosemary, garlic, thyme, basil, salt, pepper, even a little ginger and turmeric is great for healing the body. And one little tip to make it even faster is saute all your veggies first, then add the broth and the chicken and it'll cook up a lot faster. Or if you have the option, try to cook down the bone broth from a chicken or a turkey. So last Thanksgiving, I hosted my very first Thanksgiving at our house, which went without a hitch, I might add. But I cooked my very first turkey. And P.S. the trick is to brine the turkey for at least 24 hours. But moving on. After Thanksgiving, I cooked down all the bones and the leftovers on slow and low in my crock pot. Rather than mess with trying to can all the broth for a shelf life, I sieved the broth into glass mason quart jars and then I froze them. And I just took a Sharpie and I wrote on top the date of when I froze them. Now, I do want to use up those broth jars within a year or so of Thanksgiving, but they've come in super handy for homemade soup. Plus, bone broth has so many added benefits. Just ask Dr. Josh Axe. He has a whole line and, protocol on bone broth itself, but that could be a whole different episode. Try to use natural bone broth for your soup as the base. Number 7 is vitamin D, the overlooked vitamin that we get from the sunshine. A lot of people reach for vitamin C when sick, but they overlook vitamin D. Keep taking the vitamin C, but adding in at least 1,000 IUs of vitamin D can dramatically increase your immune system. I guess there's something to be said about that sunshine being good for the body and the soul, yeah? Especially this time of year with changing seasons, cloudy days, you never know where you're going to get that vitamin D from. So why not take it via supplement form? And you can't overdose on vitamin D either. So keep popping the vitamin D. Number 8, colloidal silver. Silver itself is naturally occurring, and it's a natural antibacterial and antimicrobial. Pure silver coins used to be put in milk at the bottom of it to help reduce the growth of algae. Now, thanks to modern refrigeration, we don't have to do that, but there are so many ways to benefit from the health aspects of colloidal silver. So let's talk about why colloidal silver is amazing. First off, colloidal silver's ability to control antibiotic-resistant superbugs is astonishing. While employed at UCLA Medical School in the 1980s, Larry C. Ford, an MD, documented over 650 different disease-causing pathogens that were destroyed in minutes when exposed to small amounts of silver. So colloidal silver, unlike antibiotics and prescriptions, simply doesn't create the resistance or immunity in the organisms that are killed by it. So there's different ways to apply and use colloidal silver. And it differs per what condition you're trying to use it for. But let's talk about some of the ways that I use it, and always keep in mind, never use it for more than 14 days in a row. So that's my little disclaimer. Don't use it for more than 2 weeks in a row. You can use 2 to 5 drops applied directly to the skin if you have some sort of skin ailment. You can even just take about a teaspoon of it orally and swallow for immune support. That's what I do. Twice a day, 1 teaspoon. If you have pink eye, you can do a couple of drops actually in the eye. And 1 to 2 drops can actually help disinfect any wounds or sores by applying it onto a Band-Aid and then putting it over the open wound. If prepared properly, it can actually be injected into a muscle, but that's something a doctor would have to obviously do. But you can even spray it directly in your nose if you're dealing with any sort of congestion in your nose, or put it maybe in a neti pot and do a nasal sinus rinse with the colloidal silver. Like I said, I just do 1 teaspoon by mouth 2 times daily at the onset of a cold and for at least those 2 weeks, and then I wean off of it. Next number is number 9, and we're going to talk about honey. Now, make sure it's local and that it's raw, and use it very sparingly since it does still have sugar. I know we talked about sugar earlier, but you still want to limit it. Maybe no more than a tablespoon per day of honey. But it does have antioxidants, antiviral, and antibacterial properties, and it helps naturally boost your immune system and soothe sore throats and coughs. Add 1 to 2 tablespoons to your tea, your ginger tea, or just to a cup of warm hot water. Even add some lemon to your tea for that little benefit of extra vitamin C. And be sure to not give honey to infants and young children, but make sure you don't overdo it. If you're also dealing with some sort of seasonal allergies, this is why it's important to find local and raw honey, as it actually helps boost your allergy and histamine properties naturally because of the local location of the honey. I don't know why, but there's more science to that. I'm sure we can do another podcast on just why local and raw honey is the best way to go. And number 10 is rest. I know it can be hard, but obviously the body is begging for a day off. Plus, nobody likes it when the sick person comes to the office to spread around the germs. With technology, things can be done from home if needed, but seriously, take some time off. This one was really hard for me, especially as a person that consistently hits the gym 6 days a week. Taking time off from my lifting and my workouts has been kind of a struggle for me, especially as I'm still prepping for my half marathon coming up. I sincerely enjoy working out, but overall my body has needed the time off, and it's especially apparent since I got sick after a super long weekend of attending conferences where I was averaging maybe 4 to 5 hours of sleep a night. That dang daylight savings. So I hope these remedies and reasons for staying natural during cold and flu season helps you fight off and fight back to the invaders. In today's show notes, I'll be sure to include my links to my favorite natural products and brands that I mentioned in today's episode, as well as my former podcast on how to do burst or HIIT style circuit training for your fitness needs. If you have a health or wellness question, be sure to email me, Deidra at stylebydeidra.com, to have your question featured on an upcoming episode. And if you're listening to this podcast on your phone, screenshot it and share it on your Instagram and tag me at stylebydeidra to get featured on my Instagram story as well. Stay well, my friends.
Hey ladies, thanks for listening, and we hope you enjoyed today's episode. To help empower more women, please be a doll and rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast. For show notes and other free resources we mentioned today, go to stylebydeidra.com.